Hi guys, my name is Jess. Welcome to Body Shift Pilates. We're in our beginner's course, which is 7 days, and this is day 1 of 7. So let's get started with a little bit of grounding just to settle in. So closing your eyes and sitting comfortably, let's take a big breath in through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. Let's do that again. Big inhale through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. Last one, big breath in. And big breath out. All right, so let's get started with some principles that you should know before we get into any kind of Pilates movement. So first things first, let's go into our breathing. So let's interlace our fingers onto our rib cage. For breathing in Pilates, it's called lateral thoracic breathing. So you're gonna be inhaling through the nose. The reason for the fingers is so that you can kind of feel the expansion happening on the inhale. So you wanna be sending the breath into the rib cage, feeling it expand out to the sides. So let's go with the inhale. And then on the exhale, it's through the mouth. Like you're blowing out of a straw. Let's do it one more time. Big inhale. And exhale. So it's important to try to adopt that breathing. Of course, it takes practice, but it really helps you get into the flow, and it helps you work from your center, which is really the core of Pilates. You're always working from your core, your center. So speaking of center, let's go into our core. So let's, no hands, let's just place our hands where we want them. Let's imagine we're wearing a corset. So one of those old school corsets that have the laces in the back. So imagine you have a corset on, and there's someone that's tightening that corset. So I want you to imagine you're bringing your abs in together, kind of cinching them in. So let's start tightening those abs, bringing them in and in, all the way until you feel like you can't go any further. You've really engaged in that core, 100% engagement. Someone's really tightened that corset behind you. Hold that here. Now I want you to imagine someone's just starting to slowly loosen that corset. So just slowly start releasing the abs, bit by bit, until you've reached about halfway, 50% engagement. And then just another little 10 to 20%. So you always have about 20 to 30% engagement in your core. So what I mean by that is when I'm speaking in the classes, if I say engage your core, this is what I mean, 20 to 30%. Obviously, when you're doing a core exercise, it's gonna be more than that. And when you're doing a stretch or a transition to the next move, you can let that go because your core needs a break as well. Same thing for the pelvic floor. So let's go into the pelvic floor muscles. So those are the muscles in the front and back passages. So those are the muscles that are internal. You won't see anything happening, but you'll feel it. So front and back passages, you know what those are. So let's just imagine an internal lift, an elevator. So let's start at the bottom floor, and we're gonna go up 10 floors. 10 is 100% engagement. So starting at the bottom, let's imagine we're squeezing and lifting up. So start going up and up, all the way up until you've reached the 10th floor, 100% engagement, a Kegel if you know what those are. Squeeze and hold, really lifting up and squeezing. Now, same thing as we did with the core, we're coming down halfway, so bring it down, let it go halfway down, then just another little 10 to 20% down. And that's what you wanna have throughout the class when I say, don't forget about your pelvic floor or engage your pelvic floor. This is what I mean. So same thing as the core, when we're doing a stretch or like a transition, you can let that go. Okay, next we're gonna talk about a little bit of posture here. So let's bring our chin down, parallel to the floor, bringing that neck into engagement with our spine. The shoulders, let's bring them up to the ears and down into imaginary back pockets. So you wanna be opening up the chest, but not pinching your shoulder blades in the back. So it's just a nice opening of the chest for that good posture. So this is what you wanna have when you're obviously standing up, sitting down. It's just a good way to hold yourself, not to have those rounded shoulders or anything. So from here, this is what we wanna hold. Now let's lie on our backs to go into our setup on our back. So how to hold good posture when we're lying down with our knees bent. So lying down with your knees bent, arms by your sides. Let's bring our feet about hip width apart and our arms are by our sides. Chin, we're gonna bring down like we're holding a tennis ball between the chin and the chest, and the shoulders are nice and flat against the mat. They haven't kind of rounded up. You want them nice and flat. Let's find our neutral pelvis by taking our fingertips and placing them on our hip bones. From here, I'm gonna use an imagery I use for all my classes. It just works like a charm. So you're gonna start tilting your pelvis forward and back. So shifting those hips up to the ceiling and creating a small arch in your lower back when you bring it down. So just keep doing these pelvic tilts, and you're gonna use the imagery of a marble. So imagine that marble is rolling from the belly button to the pubic bone. And you wanna just start slowing these tilts down, making them smaller and smaller until that imaginary marble lands in the middle of the two. So that's your neutral pelvis lying on your back. So once you find that, try to hold it here. So this is just basically how to hold good posture, even at home when you're lying in your bed or lying on the couch. Try to find that neutral pelvis and try to bring those shoulders down. So now we're gonna bring ourselves into tabletop, getting into a little bit of work from here. So let's bring our right leg up into tabletop. Knee has to be in line with your hip bone. So not all the way here. A lot of people will bring their knee right in. Has to be directly over the bone here. And the shin is parallel to the ceiling. So imagine you're balancing a plate on your shin. We do use a lot of imagery in Pilates, by the way. So balancing a plate on that shin. You don't want to drop the foot because the plate would slide off. So like that, I like to use that imagery to help people hold that shin up. Before we lift the second leg, imprinting the spine is another super important principle to learn before we move into the next 7 days. So taking your ribs, they're probably flaring right now like mine are. You're gonna consciously drive the ribs down towards the hips, like you're sliding them back in, making sure your lower back is flattened against the mat, your tailbone, and then you can bring that second leg. So just having both legs in tabletop with the correct imprinted spine should be working your core. You should feel that core working to hold itself down and cinch together. So you're kind of bringing it all in. Let's go into a classic, our toe taps. So on your exhale, you're gonna tap your right leg to the mat. Inhale, bring it back to tabletop. Exhale, left. Inhale, back up. Let's just keep going with that. And notice where I'm moving from. I'm moving from the hip, not the knee. So I'm not doing this. I'm not doing knee taps. We're tapping from the hip joint. So let's keep going. Let's do one more on each side. Last one. Back to center and hug those knees in. Maybe roll side to side, lifting the tailbone to release the lower back. So that's a classic move, or toe taps. I love to do those ones, and you can really feel them. So that was the beginner version. So let's place our feet back down and move on to another staple, our shoulder bridge. So this is just gonna give you the basic shoulder bridge for beginners and show you how to do it properly. So arms by our sides, feet, bring them in a little bit closer to you so they're not too far away, nice and close towards you. So the distance between your knees and your feet is gonna be about 2 fists apart. If you're not confident that you can hold that space, if you do have a yoga block, feel free to put that between the knees. If not, just be conscious of that space throughout. So from here, we're gonna shift our hips up to the ceiling. We're gonna imagine our spine is Velcro as we peel away from the mat, vertebra by vertebra, until we reach the shoulder blades. Once you're at the shoulder blades, just make sure you have a nice slope from the knees to the chest and you're not overarching. So you don't wanna be like that. You want a nice straight spine. Also make sure the knees haven't drifted apart, which they're gonna wanna do, but you need to consciously keep them at that distance. So from here, once you're at your shoulder blades, you bring your arms overhead, touch the floor. Take a big inhale here. Exhale, bring your arms back down, and as you bring your arms down, you can slowly come down with your back, vertebra by vertebra. So we're really trying to work that spine mobility, spinal articulation when we're coming up and down. Let's do a few more to stay focused. So shift those hips up and peel up. Come to the shoulder blades, bring those arms overhead. Big breath in, big breath out. Bring your arms down and slowly roll yourself back down. Taking your time, even keeping that core and pelvic floor switched on this one. Let's go again. Let's do one more. Keep breathing. And roll yourself back down. Once again, bring the knees to chest. Release that lower back. Let's just do a spine twist real quick. So bringing your feet and knees stuck together, and the arms are gonna extend out to the sides in line with your shoulders. We're gonna drop our knees over to the right and look to the left. Keep the shoulders on the mat. Let the knees drop as much as you can. This is just a nice stretch for the back. A few deep breaths here. Let's go over to the other side. So make sure you're always looking away from the knees. Back to center. Now let's come to seated. So let's practice our roll-ups. So we're gonna do a beginner version of a roll-up. So these are something that you can take to really advance. So of course we're gonna start with the beginner. So let's have our legs bent to start with our hands behind our thighs. Feet flat on the mat, and you're standing tall. Well, sitting tall, nice tall spine, straight back. So we're gonna come down with a C curve. A C curve, we tuck our chin, round our shoulders, press your ribs in towards your spine, and you come down by rolling the hips up. Maybe just come about halfway from now. Roll yourself back up to a tall spine. Let's go again. Tuck the chin, round the shoulders, roll yourself down, maybe come a little bit further this time. Roll back up to a nice tall spine. If you don't want to have the support of the hands, take your hands out in front of you in line with your shoulders. Let's go again. Tuck your chin, round your shoulders, roll down. Maybe try coming even further. And back up. Tall spine. And again, tuck your chin, round your shoulders, roll down. Even further. Back to a seated position. Last one. Tuck your chin, round your shoulders, belly button into spine. And roll back up to seated. Well done, guys. So of course today we really took it easy. It was basically just to show you some basics, some key points as we move on into the next 6 days after today. So you'll be wanting to do every day how you like it. You can do it consecutively. You can take breaks in between. It really just depends on how you feel. But every day will just get a little bit harder. And then once the 7 days are over with the beginners course, you can move on to the intermediate. So I'll see you next time. Bye.